All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling a topic that is, or at least should be, on every leader's mind: resilience. I mean, how do you make sure your organization can take a major hit and not just survive, but actually bounce back even stronger? We're going to break down the go-to international standard for that exact problem, ISO 22301. We'll get into how it works and, more importantly, why it's so much more than just a plan. It's a real competitive advantage. This quote from an HR director in the auto industry, it really just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's not a question of if a disaster will happen. It's always a question of when. And the problem is universal. You need a real, tested process in place to get back on your feet fast. And listen, this isn't just some side issue for the IT department anymore. A whopping 75% of organizations now put the ultimate responsibility for resilience right where it belongs, with the C-suite. It's become a core strategic function of leadership. So that brings us to our first big idea here. You can't control when a disruption is going to hit, but you can absolutely control how you prepare for it. Being unprepared? That's a choice. And it's a choice that can have some pretty serious consequences. You know, for the longest time, the whole approach to business continuity was just reactive. It was all about firefighting, waiting for something to break and then scrambling to fix it. This old way of thinking treated it like a necessary evil, just another cost of doing business. But wow, has the game changed? ISO 22301 represents this huge shift in thinking. It's all about moving from a defensive crouch to playing offense. It's about building a real resilience advantage. And you can really see that shift in mindset right here. On one side, you've got that old defensive reaction, just trying to minimize the damage, recover, and seeing it all as a cost. But on the other side, you see the modern goal, turning your preparedness into a strategic advantage. You're gaining customer trust, you're driving efficiency, and you're building a real competitive edge. So what do you actually get from doing all this? Well, think of it in two ways. First, it's your shield, right? It protects your reputation, it helps you identify threats, and it minimizes the impact of interruptions. But here's the cool part. It's also a tool for growth. It builds your ability to handle whatever comes your way and proves to your customers and stakeholders that you're in control. And that, well, that's how you earn trust. And check out this quote from an industry leader. It shows you exactly what this looks like in the real world. You see how they talk about their business continuity management system, their BCMS? It's part of their overall strategy. This isn't just some binder sitting on a shelf. It's woven right into the culture of the company. Okay, so how does this thing actually work? Well, at its core is a really simple but powerful cycle that just drives continuous improvement. You can think of it like the blueprint for building resilience. Plan, do, check, act. So here's how that cycle breaks down. First, you plan your objectives and processes. Then you actually do the work. You implement the system. But you don't just stop there. You constantly check your performance. You measure what's working and what isn't. And then, this is the crucial part, you act on what you've learned to get better. This is what makes it a living system. It's designed to get smarter and stronger all the time. Now, to make a really solid plan, the standard makes you define your limits. The first one is called your maximum acceptable outage, or MAO. This is basically your breaking point. It's the absolute longest a critical part of your business can be down before the damage becomes truly unacceptable. And the flip side of that is your minimum business continuity objective, or MBCO. So if MAO is your breaking point, think of MBCO as your survival point. It defines the absolute bare minimum level of service you have to maintain to meet your core goals during a crisis. All right, so with those key ideas in our back pocket, let's look at how the standard itself is structured. And I want you to think of these different clauses less like dry rules and more like your strategic playbook for building resilience. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with Clause 4, understanding your world. Before you can build any kind of plan, you need a map, right? This is about getting that 360-degree view of your business, internal factors, external market shifts, who your key stakeholders are, and what risks are unique to you. Without this solid foundation, any plan you build is just pure guesswork. Then we get to Clause 5, and this one is a big one. It's an absolute non-negotiable. Leadership. This whole framework will fail if it's just seen as some IT or compliance project. Top management has to own it. They have to drive it, integrate it into the business, and champion why it's so important. Because if it's not a priority in the C-suite, it won't be a priority anywhere else. Simple as that. Now, clauses 6 through 8, this is the core engine. This is where the rubber meets the road, and strategy becomes reality. It's the do phase we talked about, setting your objectives, getting the right resources and people in place, training them up, and then actually rolling out your continuity procedures. And finally, clauses 9 and 10 close that loop. They are the check and act stages. This is where you're constantly reviewing how you're doing, running audits, and most importantly, acting on the results to get better. This really drives home that resilience isn't some destination you arrive at. It's a journey of constant improvement. So we've covered the what, right? Now let's get into the how. We've got some fantastic, real-world advice from leaders who have actually been on the front lines, implementing this standard in their own organizations. First up, and we've kind of hinted at this already, but it's so important it needs its own spotlight, you have to get buy-in from the top. Early and consistent engagement with your senior leaders isn't just a nice to have, it's absolutely crucial for success. And listen to how this manager from the construction industry puts it. It's so simple. The earlier you start those conversations with senior management, the smoother the whole thing is going to go. Don't wait. The next tip is all about culture. And honestly, this might be one of the biggest hidden benefits. When you use a framework like ISO 22301, you start to create a common language for resilience across the whole company. And when everyone understands the terms and the goals, it just breaks down those departmental silos and gets everyone pulling in the same direction. And you can hear the payoff in this quote from a tech director. It's not just about things feeling better internally. Because everyone's speaking the same language, they're better able to deliver for their customers, even when a crisis hits. Now, that is a powerful competitive advantage. So, we'll leave you with this final thought. Disruption isn't a possibility, it's a certainty. It's going to happen. The only question left to answer is, when it arrives at your door, will you be ready?